Favorite quote from Abraham Lincoln is that if you only give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I would spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. That means that the more time that you put into the planning and the analysis and to understand what you're trying to do first, every impulse, every bone in your body, like somebody who needs methadone, is going to be telling you, I need to get this automated now. The goal was to say, of these recipes, where does humanity make us better than the bots?
Welcome to Serhant Live, the show with hot Ryans and even hotter Serhants. I'm your Chief Experience Officer, Ryan Coyne, and I'm here with our guest, Ryan Serhant, your Chief Executive Officer, star of Owning Manhattan, and author of Brand It Like Serhant, now in paperback. Ryan is getting ready to face the wings of death. How are you with spicy food, Ryan?
There are people, they know the...
You know the one, the buyer who ghosts, the seller who changes their mind, the offer that disappears right before the finish line. But the best agents, they don't bury dead deals. They bring them back to life. It is something that we want to make sure that something is.
Most people just call him Coyne. He designs systems that help people do their best work, especially when the work is complex, emotional, and scaling faster than anyone expects. He's a founding member of Serhant, now serving as Chief Experience Officer, where he architects the standards, systems, and experiences that allow technology, scale, service, and humanity to coexist. From AI in education to media and culture, if something is quietly shaping how people work or how they feel about their work, he's likely had a hand in it. Coyne, welcome to Disrupt for Good. Actually curious anyway, is that room in your house or is that room built in an office?
No, this is my house.
That is sick.
Thank you. Yeah, no, this is it's actually also a very controlled lighting environment. This is actually a very dark room. I can show you exactly how dark it is because most people don't realize that this is actually like a movie set that is completely like that was a window, but it's mostly covered.
Yeah.
And just to make sure that I've got like a very, very precise lighting environment, and I can also turn it like all different colors. Like, I don't know, every light in here is individually addressable color-wise. So I can do like patterns and animations and different kinds of things. And like I have fill lights and I have extra fill lights to be extra bright. Hi, it's Coyne. Welcome to Serhant Live. You know, like all kinds of stuff and whatever I'm filming. And it's a wonderful space to spend time in. It's very comfortable.
It's very unique. I really love it. It looks like a podcast studio in its own. You did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just don't have my Netflix sign on right now. I usually have that on too, but
Yeah. No, I was always curious because I was like, does he have that in his house or is that built? Did someone build that out somewhere in an office? So
yeah, my old office, that this room used to have like a curtain on that window, and I had it just didn't look like much in here. And they say in obviously in whatever dress for the job you want, not for the job that you have, right? And I was already kind of an influential, you know, I deposit a lot into the Karma ATM just by virtue of how I want to treat people. And I clearly was able to build a lot of great relationships and stuff, but there was something kind of holding back getting asked to do things like this, or even like Ryan being proud of the background that was on because he wanted to put me in front of like he gave me a compliment at my annual review at the end of 2021. I'll never forget it. Sometime in December of that year, where he said he knows that he can put me in any room, anywhere, anytime with anybody, and that person is going to leave with a better impression of the company than they started with. And I took that as an incredible compliment, and I thought about, all right, I need to raise a little bit, not to dress fancy or buy fancy, but I need to have more conscientiousness about certain aspects of the look, including the background. So I just took apart this room and spent like 3 months. Like this is privacy ivy that's meant for like a fence that like accordions. And I just
yeah.
like put it up on some screws. I bought this sign that was like $140. It's like eighth of an inch sheet metal. There's lights on the back of it. The power cord actually goes from here through the ivy down past like a plant that's here that you can kind of see. And like, you know, I painted and
No, I
This
love
chair
it.
was Amazon. This pillow was Amazon, $20. This is an IKEA lamp. Like, it's not as expensive as it looks, but I'm glad that it looks the way that it does because that kind of elevated the background itself became legendary and it sets a vibe. It intimidates vendors, which is really fun because they're like, whoa, this is serious. My background is shit compared to this guy.
No, seriously, it really is. No one can compare.
Oh, so it's a lot of fun, and it does. I recommend everybody put a little thought into kind of what your background says about you. It's
I
almost like people getting into your car of 2026 and how you want that vibe to be.
I completely agree. Yeah, and it basically speaks to your, we speak about this all the time at Serhant. It really speaks to your own personal brand and how you really elevate that. So I really appreciate that, and I really do think you did a great job with that space. So that was something that I really did want to bring up. So I'm glad that we got the backstory on that. I want to go into what a normal day in your role as Chief Experience Officer looks like. I know that you previously were Chief Technology Officer, but I know that this role as, Chief Experience Officer, I'm sure can vary day to day. But, can you explain to the audience, what this role really does entail? 'Cause I'm sure it does have a lot of different variables.
Do you know what's funny? You just inspired like a day in the life of the CXO video, the way that Ryan does those CEO ones. I think we need to make that. It's really varied. The short answer is whatever that day needs. Today I'll be doing like partnership conversations with different big companies, securing sponsorship dollars for our events and different kinds of things. I'll be hiring a new person on my team to be the experience lead kind of on my team with myself and our experience manager Jess Mills. Um, Planning out the road shows of me visiting different markets and what the content or the cointent, if you will, of
Love
those
that.
visits is going to have. Um, Helping to, you know, meet with different agents who are interested in coming to the company so they can be experiencing a little bit of the culture, asking like behind the scenes or like sensitive questions to somebody who's been with Ryan since the very beginning of all of it. Um, Helping people feel unstoppable if they feel stuck, helping people get unstuck in whatever ways that might be. So I work across the entire company and across the entire country every single day. Not every staff member is that way. So it can really vary across major projects and initiatives and building or testing new technology and software tools for everybody, coaching, I mean, stepping into all manner of situations of whatever moves the company forward today and whatever helps an agent or a team feel like more momentum and more that Serhant is on their side. There are times where I'm talking people out of being upset, but not in the way that it sounds like. I don't do like corporate hand wavy apologize type of stuff. Like I had a team leader come to me, I think it was back in December. They were mad. I won't go into why because the details might be traceable. And they were
Yeah,
mad at the company. And I said to them, I listen. Active listening is, you know, it's kindness and it gives a person a chance to express themselves.
of course.
I said to them, I think that what really has happened here is that you've outgrown a version of leadership that no longer serves you. And that what happened here would have happened no matter which brokerage you were at. So while it happens that you're here, and I'm happy to keep talking about that, based on the data science about the personalities in the room and the story that you just told me, kind of sounds like this was a you thing that you had hoped that we were the safety net for and that we weren't there to catch you, but we also didn't realize that you were expecting that from us and that you can avoid this in the future if you are more intentional in these kinds of ways. They were very taken aback. They were like, "Wait a second. I got on the phone to demand, retribution." And I was like, "Sure, but truth tellers are in short supply, and I'm not afraid of hurting somebody's feelings in the interest of hurting them because it really is in everybody's best interest. And how many people can you really count on one hand are going to take the time and put themselves at risk to potentially be uncomfortable, but in a respectful way to tell you the truth about something that's an opportunity for bigger growth?"
Absolutely.
And they ended up, that was transformative for them. So I find myself in that situation, things like that with colleagues, with Ryan sometimes, where, you know, being that unabashed truth teller who has some communication tact can help with staff, with agents, with vendors, with sponsorship partners, with Inman and press and PR. And now that I'm also an associate professor at Columbia University Business School teaching in the power and influence class of their executive MBA program.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I'm also kind of teaching some of those methodologies to how to be like not the ultimate person in charge, but able to be influential to get things done and to rally support from constituents for all different kinds of things you might be doing. And it's a lot
Yeah.
of fun.
No, you have your hand in a lot of different areas, and behind the scenes, there goes a lot into this company, and I feel like there's a lot of respect there for that. So I loved hearing that message, and that's
Yeah. I
great.
mean, not to belabor it, but like I wake up every single day enormously inspired by the fact that the work that we get to do every day inspires millions of people that I'll never meet or talk to, or even people who will never be in real estate or around the industry because it makes them feel good or it inspires them to be their best self in different kinds of ways, or it gives them alternate perspective. It's one of the reasons I love being the producer for Serhant Live, which is another responsibility of mine, um, because of the way that it makes people feel. And I think that leadership is largely about changing the way people think. Management is changing what people do. If you change how people think, they'll change what they do. And I think that the best part of all of it is getting to be a leader in so many different ways and to help people.
I love that. I think, it's a really great thing that you have the ability to really dive into so many different areas of the company and have the ability also to watch it grow from start to where it is now. Ryan started the company in COVID, and you guys really have changed the trajectory of where real estate and where brokerage is at now. And I know you built Simple, which is a really amazing platform and how to
I was
handle.
part of the village. My own fingers were not the primary responsible ones.
But I know you had definitely, you can take some credit for that. So can you tell us a little bit about how that platform came to life a little bit? Because I'm sure that,
Yeah,
you had some
yeah.
part
I mean,
play in that.
it actually started way back in 2013, when Ryan and I first got introduced, December of 2013. We didn't start working together right away, but when we started chatting, I realized there was something special about this guy. And back then, he was still doing, a good amount of the admin stuff himself. He had a very small team. It was like two or three people helping him. And of course, Jordan Hurt from Owning Manhattan was his assistant at the time, or
Right.
his EA. And he had Yolanda, who was the original operations greatest of all time. And I noticed, I was like, wow, okay, so he's able to be like Willy Wonka with these people helping make the chocolate and the candy and stuff like that. And it was a really lean, mean operation, but man, was it scaling quickly. And as the social stuff, like I was, there when the conversation of the media guys, they were trying to convince him to take, new media, YouTube, Instagram, all these different things much more seriously. I think when I met him, he had around 100,000 followers.
Yeah, and
And
that
that
time
was like
it's still big. That's a good amount of following.
yes. And that was largely like the Bravo verse,
Right.
and some real estate. And we had a lot of conversations around not only how could he support his team better because he had I think at his peak I think he had 66 agents on his teams that are all different sizes and structures, but it really came to in 2019 when Ryan decided to start his own company and then changed his mind and then changed his mind again. We were deciding to actually go forward with everything. And I had always told him for years, I was a consultant to him prior to Serhant being its own company. I told him if he were ever a shrimp boat captain, I want to be his first mate. I would be honored.
Yeah.
So the conversation we were having is like, what are we going to be able to offer agents? We can't just offer them Ryan's face. We can't spend $1.5 billion like Compass did on developing custom technology that, was owned and intellectual property. We would have to make smarter bets. We weren't going to be able to outspend. We needed to outsmart. So we all of us, Jen and Kristen, Ryan, myself, like and others, we put our heads together on what at its core, how do we turn every agent into Willy Wonka by giving them the best support that we possibly can and taking all these learnings from growing him in this media empire and giving those same kinds of abilities, even if we can't guarantee the outcomes all the time, but giving people the same abilities and tools and making that scalable. And we thought, we were like, oh, a lot of the success that he's got is because he's great at time management and he has that time because of people helping and systems helping to be able to focus more on clients and deals. How do we do that? So that's kind of where that started was what if instead of hiring like fleets and fleets of admins, because an admin usually maxes out at helping 4 or 5 agents at a time.
Right.
AI, which we were early to, even before Serhant started, we were kind of messing around with like some of the playground stuff that was pre-Chat GPT and seeing what the options were and what we could take advantage of there to get an edge. But when that happened, we realized, all right, the entire industry is going to do chatbots and they're going to stop at chatbots for a while. What if we are the first to do the large action model? Let's do, human in the loop, what used to be called man machine teaming back in the day, but human in the loop, where we have awesome people, W-2 onshore Serhant employees with real estate experience. We'll call them advisors, and we'll have them be the people who gain the mastery over the AI tools. We'll have AI do what it can. We'll have it kick over to a human when it needs to. We'll have sous chefs in the kitchen who inspect the plates before they go out to the tables when things are completed. And we'll avoid what is going to likely happen that a lot of AI automation is going to let people down. And the stats, according to McKinsey, Deloitte, and others in the end of 2025, is that over 70% of agentic AI workflows fail. Most businesses try to automate and optimize processes that were not well-formed processes in the first place, or they're broken in the first place and not documented well, or they forgot to account for the humans. A
Right.
lot of businesses operate the way they do because the humans that are in it developed that process, and handing it off to a computer that doesn't have the same common sense judgment unless it learns the right way.
Right.
So we thought about that at the beginning and decided to go with having humans in the loop from the start. And it turned out that that was a really good strategy, as opposed to a lot of companies wasted a lot of time and money. Like even Apple, multi-trillion-dollar company, can't ship Apple Intelligence. The egg on their face a year
Yeah.
and a half after they said it was going to launch, it's still not here.
It's still
And then they
not
just,
here.
yeah.
We've been
So
waiting.
we were ahead of that, and we knew that we needed to go about it a different way than seemed to be trendy, which is just the Serhant way, is to not do things like everybody else.
Right. And I love the human first approach. I think it's so important because sometimes people can get stuck in the chat GPT or the Gemini of the world, and it can feel so manufactured. And I myself use Simple day to day, and it's just such an amazing tool. It saves so much time and so much like energy where we can actually put our time in other directions and other, which is really great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, the whole thing with your time back is everything. I think that most agents, when they ask me, like I had a couple of meetings yesterday with some new people who wanted my advice, and they said, "What do I do next?" And the first question I ask agents is, "What's your unique value proposition? Why should I work with you and no other real estate agent?" Only like 1 out of every 5 agents has a decent answer to
I was
that
gonna say,
question.
can they even answer that? A lot of
One out
people
of
can't.
five. Like
Yeah.
I was on a meeting with a new team that joined yesterday, and one person on the team was able to give me a really good, confident answer. And I
Yeah,
was like, "Do
it's
you
bad.
meditate and like yoga and shit?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like,
There you go.
"Self-awareness." You know? I
Yeah.
could tell. Not saying that that's the prescription, but and then I say like, "Why do you do this for a living? Do you know why you're in the business beyond money? Like, have you figured out like your authentic life story connection to why this tracks? Because like nobody's in this business completely by accident, but it's also not obvious. So if you figure out what your unique value proposition is and you figure out your why, like there's a reason deep down that you enjoy this to want to work this hard and to be taking the risk that is being in this business. You
Absolutely.
figure out those two things, and then you end up with a better decision filter. I call it a DSS, a decision support system. and that this is a better mental way of that's clarity about what to say yes and no to. Because most agents are terrible at prioritization and focus until they can get clearer on that why and on whether or not, like, what, how do you know that something is moving you closer to your business goals or is causing more friction?
Right.
Because every agent, no matter who you are, and this includes you, whether you realize that this is the question that you're asking or using these words, am I building the right business for the version of myself I'm trying to grow into? That is the question to be asking yourself frequently to know whether or not you're on track or you're just burning days on the calendar.
Right.
So I think that those steps, and then simple is something that can accelerate you, but without that kind of clarity, what you really bring to the market right now, which can change and update, why you do this, which can change, but there should be some authenticity in it that people can see, hear, and feel. And having that decision filter about what to say yes and no to. Is this moving me forward or is it distraction and friction? Because of whether or not it's helping you build that business that is for the future version of you you're trying to become. That all helps with prioritization and focus and deciding whether or not the next thing that you do is somehow tied to generating you revenue and worth your time.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. And it's so interesting because Ryan always says, something similar where it's like I'm working for my future self of, 5 to 10 years from now. So completely agree where it's like I'm only gonna say yes to opportunities that are only gonna really fulfill me and accelerate my success and growth.
It's definitely, that's more of a CEO's mindset because everybody in this business is you're your own boss.
Yeah,
It's so you ever wonder, like, veterans and ex firefighter, police, ex athletes, they seem to do well when the mental discipline and like the consistency and like the routine part of being good in this business, but they're not all the way amazing on some of the butterfly golden retriever social part of the thing in
right.
terms of getting along with everybody. And the people who are that sometimes, very frequently, struggle with the mental discipline part. So it's like, how can you be
How can you
both?
bring both? How can you
I
move?
think it's, yeah, I feel strongly that it's easier for people who have those, like, the high social skill, high influential personality to gain mental discipline and a respect for the routine than it is for the people who start out with the mental discipline to gain the soft skills.
Completely agree.
And 80% of this industry are the people who are starting out with the soft skills first. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's very important. And the social skills are, let alone are the most important. They're going to get you into that room, first of all, to really
Mhm.
grow your business and grow your brand and relationships. So, very important.
It is a series of doors being unlocked for you. And every time that you get into another room in terms of your career and your sphere of influence and what you're moving through, you should be looking for what the next door is to the next bigger, larger, more influential room.
Absolutely. Yeah, my mind's always racing to what's the next thing. I'm living in the present, but we're always thinking what's the next step to really grow and elevate that brand and how can I better myself for the next version of me in the future. So that is really, I guess,
What's the biggest unanswered question in your business right now?
I'm still, finishing school, but I'm also working full time. So I would say we have a lot of unknown variables right now because once I really am in New York and I'm really working full time, what's that going to look like when I really do everything and I'm really the face of my own brand and I'm not relying solely on my team to really do everything while I'm not there full time. So that's the unanswered question. I know that I'm very good at cold calling. I know that I'm very good on the behind the scenes. I know that I'm very good with, interacting with clients. But I think that once I'm there in New York, I'm very interested to see how that unfolds and shakes out. I know that I will bring a lot to the table, but I think that's the unanswered question right now because there's a lot that still needs to unfold. We're still so early to the business, but I think we're off to a good start.
What do you love about real estate?
I love the human connection. I love the ability to create relationships, and some of them are not automatic. Some of them are not you know, relationships that build organically, like from the minute that I meet them to, automatically to a client. Sometimes it takes, 5 years to really get there. But I do think that it's such an amazing business to really, meet new people. I also love the fact that it's so creative. I love Serhant for the fact that, we create video and photography and marketing materials to really bring a home to life for people to really showcase what that experience could be for a family or for an individual who's in business. I think it's just a really exciting opportunity, and I just also love infrastructure and architecture in general, so I think it all brings and blends together into one industry, and so it just makes the most sense to be involved in that.
You know what your biggest challenge is going to be?
What?
How to make money this year and not in the next 5 years. You're very psychologically and just ideologically aligned to the fact that there's a long sales cycle and the relationships are worthwhile and that you're planting acorns to grow into oak trees for later and all different kinds of stuff. And the mysticism and like almost like the spirituality of the industry is so appealing and attractive to you. And by nature, you're not focused on being so transactional, which in my opinion leads to more transactions eventually. And so a person who's got your love of those the aspects of the industry, the thing that you're going to find out about is how well and authentically you're able to balance the business of actually hunting something that pays your bills in the near term,
Yeah.
because the rest of it is already you already have the spirit and the right brain for all of it, but balancing out and not feeling guilty, not guilting yourself for the fact that you do need to eat and you do need to produce something short term. Because guess what? Two things can be true at the same time. Everything that you just told me that you love about the real estate industry and all the different components, the creativity, the architecture, the relationships, the narrative storytelling that I can tell that you really appreciate about different people's lives and their journeys and your ability to help them, that is not at odds with or in conflict with the other thing that is true at the same time, which is that you got bills to pay.
Absolutely.
So how well you're playing the mental game of not feeling like it's inauthentic or you're betraying the reason that you're doing this for the fact that you also need to have a hustle in the short term is going to be key. And that's what I would leave you with as far as my recommendation for how to mentally acquiesce to the transition out of school.
No, I completely agree. I mean, for me, I interned last year in commercial real estate, and they it was just a company that I did not align with whatsoever. I'll leave it at that. I left there, and in the middle of the time that I was with the company, I really liked the people that I worked with, but I just decided that it was something that I was not interested in continuing with. They gave me a return offer, but I was already in the middle of it, reaching out to people at Serhant and other companies. Um, while I was there, they were like, "You are not making a penny during your first year while you're working here. You're going to be making 100+ phone calls a day, cold calling, which I already am doing right now, and I'm happy to be doing. I'm making tons of cold calls every day, and I'm trying to generate those leads, and I have been, and it's been amazing. My pipeline has been great. But to hear that you're not making a penny during your first year in the business and you're working so hard, not going to fly with me. So and I'm not going to work for a stale company
Was
that.
it was that discouraging for you in terms of somebody telling you that you couldn't achieve something, or was that something that was actually a financial stress?
It was just something it wasn't a financial stress, more so that it was something that I wasn't going to let become my reality. Um,
Right, that the average template of what people experience isn't something what you're going to settle for.
yeah, I just was not settling for something that was so broken, in my opinion, at a
Hmm.
company where that I was watching people sit at their desk day to day, get an email the next morning with the top three phone call loggers from every previous day.
Yeah, it sounds like really stale, old kind of traditional methodology. We've seen a bunch of agents have incredible rookie years.
Yeah.
There was an agent. It was they were licensed for 63 days and got a $3.6 million deal. No, 3.7. It was a 3.7 million Upper East Side. Her name was Samantha, and she was 63 days into the business and got a 3.7 million. That closed. Um, we've had Jocelyn Yao in the Orlando area market underneath the Able team of Ben and Zoe Atwood. Her first ever listing was 10 million and it sold.
It's amazing.
And she's in her young 20s. So
Yeah.
like I just to anybody who says that it can't be done or that you're undeserving, bullshit. They all you see the F1 driver that learned to play on a PlayStation? Times are different.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pitching a $12 million listing today. I brought in a $3.75 million listing within my first month of being at Serhant on the Upper West Side.
Hmm.
And I have another listing for $2.5 million going live on March 15th. So, if anything, it's my way of going back to that company and proving them wrong that within your first year in the business, anything's possible. And
Yeah.
so that's my way of when I left and I got that return offer. I didn't know, and me turning that down, I left with having nothing in my hands for the following year with any job. But it was my way of betting on myself to say, I know what I can handle and I know that I have the ability to really prove them wrong and prove myself that I can make it in this business and make it within my first year.
Yeah. It's mindset. There's not everybody's the biggest like baseball history buff, but there's a great quote from Yogi Berra that was baseball is 90% mental, the other half is physical,
Yeah,
which is one of those quotes that doesn't really make sense, you know? But yeah, real estate is very much like there's scientific studies that have been done into believing in yourself or believing in the ability to be able to achieve something. Some people call it manifesting, some people call it vision board, whatever it is. But there is science, not into the mysticism side of that in terms of the materialization of those things. But there is science that shows that you are thousands of percent more likely to succeed in your goals if you believe that you can. So also a big unlock for people in sales in general, you are such a persuasive freaking person to be in sales. Either you're becoming one or you are one or both. You're always getting sharper.
right.
It starts with being persuasive to yourself. What we focus outwardly so much on other people and our relationship with other people, we rarely are focusing that same energy to convince ourselves to buy into our own BS. And you will be more successful if you have a good relationship, self-awareness, and your internal dialogue, and that this is going to go well for you. There's an opposite to the word paranoid. Most people aren't familiar with it. It's pronoid, like pronoia.
Right.
So if paranoia is thinking that everything's out to get you, pronoia is that everything's out to help you, or the universe is out to help you. I am deliberately and intentionally pronoid
I love
because
that.
I've also seen evidence for it. Like I just, similar to like Succession, and when Tom tells Kendall that he has to go with Logan because he only ever sees Kendall get screwed, and he, only sees his dad seem to have things work out. That's how I feel about this brand. That's how I feel about Ryan Serhant. That's how I feel about this team that makes this all happen, is because we show up with the right heart and with the right belief in ourselves and the right effort and resourcefulness to get things done. And we keep on. We set a record in 2025. We had the highest growth by recruiting percentage in the entire industry. We grew 81% last year
It's insane. It's insane.
in
Yeah,
2025.
it speaks to the brand, it speaks to the people that work at the company, and just it's incredible.
I'm happy with it.
Yeah,
I'm very
I
happy with it.
I would say so, as you should be.
Yeah. So your big goal is next. Where do you go to school?
Go to Tulane. I'm a senior. I'm graduating in May, part-time right now, and I go back and forth to New York. So I'll be in New York next week, and I have some stuff going on there. So I, you know, live here and I live there, and I'll be full-time starting at the end of May.
Going from one cobblestone street to another.
Exactly.
So, what are you studying at Tulane?
I'm poli-sci and real estate, which is very unique,
Wow. Yeah. Well,
but
no, that's actually they're not different. Poli sci as an interest of mine. I mean, I'm like the diplomat of diplomats as far as this company goes, and as far as, you know, our position in the industry. You're there's a good amount of psychology, sociology, you know, structural functionalism at least, and you know, political science in the moves that we make. How nice do we want to be about our competitors in the press is a decision that you make,
Right.
right? When do you want to saber rattle? When do you be the merciful king who lets certain things go? When do you do off with somebody's head? There's a right way to bring something up as a point of contention with somebody, and when to go about it in a, you know, softer, more head-on kind of way. There's a million different factors. Oh, I could partner with this prop tech vendor, but that's going to piss off this one. How do I think about their long-term play in the industry and whether or not I want to be on the bad side of this company, even if this company is willing to give me more money now? Do I want this company to be in better standing and with us in different kinds of ways longer term, and that it could be more costly to take the short money now from the company who's going to make us look bad? There's so many aspects, even just in what I do, but the political science of two people that you're sitting in front of, whether it's two people who are investors and developers, whether it's spouses, whether it's inheritance heirs to an estate that you're helping to divide in different kinds of ways, you're going to be using that poli sci training, and even internally with how you move on the team that you're on, there's a right amount of energy to bring to the, you know, look, dad, I brought you a dead bird. And like when you're happy about your victories and your wins, that other people are kind of challenged. Like even the difference between jealousy and envy, right? Envy
Yeah.
is wanting something somebody else has. That's fine. That's what drives the economy. Jealousy is being terrified that somebody is going to take something away from you that belongs to you. And even just kind of getting your political science brain aware of when somebody's motivators are one or the other and how to tell the difference, incredibly useful.
Yeah.
Incredibly useful.
No, I never thought of it with that perspective, and to hear it that way, it's really amazing, and I appreciate that because every time I explain people to people that, you know, what I do and work at Serhant, they all love it. They ask me what I study at school, tell them, they're all like, "What?" They're like, "You don't."
Because they think when you say poli sci, they're thinking policy decisions and they're thinking like Washington. But
Right.
the science of politics exists in elementary school.
Yeah.
What cafeteria table are you sitting at, and what does it say about you?
No, it's
What
behavioral
what what is
study.
your brand message? What are you wearing? What's your fashion? Your fashion is making statements. Your word selection, your marketing, all of that is factoring into political science. You could argue that it's like a political campaign to get yourself elected as the agent to sell that home for somebody.
Yeah.
You know, it really does play. Like I swear, being obsessed with like West Wing, House of Cards, all those different shows and stuff, like Scandal, like
Me too.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've used some things that I've picked up from those, even though I'm a community college dropout who now teaches at Columbia. Yeah.
But look at that. It's amazing. It's
Hmm.
something to be very proud of. So yeah, I love that. Um, I want to ask you another question. What's one experience you hope people associate with Serhant as the brand continues to evolve over time?
The sense of belonging that you feel. That's different to each person. It's very eye of the beholder. I think there's different kinds of people who develop different kinds of belonging, but at the end of the day, I'm responsible for two things: whether or not somebody feels like this is the only place they could possibly achieve all their goals, and how much of a sense of belonging our agents, our staff, and the public at large feel with this company and with this brand in different ways. So the number one experience is how included and accepted do you feel by this brand, because it has multiple identities on
Right.
purpose. There's Ryan, the serious CEO who's giving advice and kind of sharing behind the scenes. There's the silly one. There's the whimsical one. There's, you know, the kind of there are certain agents here who like the bros club that they find inside certain places, even though it's not a bros club. But that audience finds each other, you know, like the women who have put together these incredible powerhouse teams, some of the top teams at the company that are like truly dominant. They're finding strength in their communication skills in different kinds of ways in their relationships and sphere they've formed. Some of the new divisions of the company that I can't speak about quite yet. The person who's in charge of commercial in New York City, obviously a very powerful, business person who's been doing it forever. There's a little bit of something for everybody, whether you're here because you want to build your brand, whether because you want to get help telling your story and articulating your story, whether you are somebody who's into tech tools and systems to save you time and to scale your operations, there's definitely a little something for everybody. And I think that that top experience is the moment, and I see it show up in the surveys, is the moment when it finally clicks. Like Frank Lombardo from Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, yesterday, he messages me and he says, "Wow, thought partner from the Serhant AI, like it didn't make sense at first, but yesterday it finally clicked, and now I'm flying." Or and to each person, it's a little bit different, but there's a moment, and they usually tell us that they suddenly realize that they really belong here and that they found their people or they found the company that was for them the whole time in one way, shape, or form. So that singular experience of the aha and feeling like this company is now your forever home, that's what I look forward to people experiencing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing. It's important to feel that sense of belonging in a culture of acceptance and really having that support. I feel like is so important. And I feel like you bring that and Ryan brings that.
Thanks, man. That's why we do things like the musical that we did in September. That
Love
wasn't
that.
for everybody, but that was a huge gamble. I always wanted to write, produce, and direct a musical before I died. That was on my bucket list, so I did. And I thought that people would enjoy it. And I told everybody who was putting together the event, I said, you need to save me 15 minutes at the end. I can't tell you what I'm planning. It's going to be awesome. I just need you guys to trust me on this. And I rallied the right people together, and 1,000 people gave us two standing ovations. It was
It was
great.
a major success. That was
Yeah. Or the Hot Ones thing that Ryan and I did for end of year Serhant Live, whatever it is. It may seem like it is being beamed at people from a screen or from a stage, but it's always something that is an incorporation of the energy that's coming from agents towards us, So Ryan and I both, and the rest of the leadership team, we're like pretty frequently just like on the phone, in the DMs, in the text messages, like keeping directly in touch with everybody. This is not an ivory tower boardroom, like never talk to the agents company. It is the opposite. It is the opposite. So that I think shows up in the kinds of experiences that we create. And it's like if you have the right flame, the right moths will come to it,
right,
you know?
right.
Not everything hits for each person, so we have to diversify what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like kind of with with the Serhant lives that you guys have every week, the guests that you
Mhm.
guys bring on, and I think that it really speaks to brand itself as well. You guys really bring on different people that
We want people to
help
know that we
inspire.
see you and we care about who comes on. It matters. We put a lot of effort into Sirhan Live, man.
I'm
It's
sure.
like a whole other job within the job, you know? Guest relations and the graphics and the sound effects and the invitations and the programming of the content, and whether it's an agent panel, a Ryan training, a guest relation coordination, Ryan's schedule of crazy things because he's Ryan. Like, it's a lot. And
Mhm.
actually producing it, doing the editing and the recording and the recap that night until 2 in the morning, the day of recording, so people can wake up to the email recap that starts everybody's day nice and
My
beautiful,
favorite email. Love it.
you
So good.
know? And then I wake up like 2 hours later to like all these responses in my inbox to that recap that I actually scheduled the night before. And like everybody is feeling so good on a Friday morning.
Yeah,
Like, how do you replace that?
right. No, it's amazing. It's just, yeah, I love it. I want
Yeah.
to ask you one final question and then I will let you go. How does your definition of disrupting for good actually show up in how you build and lead at Serhant?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of hinted at this earlier. I think that disrupting for good is people's thought processes. I mentioned it earlier, but I'll kind of restate it and I'll go a little deeper into it. To me, leadership is about changing the way that people think, management is about changing what people do. If you only ever focus on changing what people do, you'll only ever be a manager, or worse, a micro manager.
Right.
The greatest leaders, the most effective ones, are the ones who take it upon themselves. They challenge themselves to learn how to communicate the same information in different ways to get through to different kinds of people. I was standing at the taco stand after the Mercedes-Benz Miami party that was featured on Owning Manhattan season two with a prominent team leader. They take their phone out of their pocket and they go, "Oh, this fucking agent. I've told them 5 times." And I said, "My man, have you repeated yourself the exact same way, or have you figured out 5 different ways to say it? Because one of those is a failure of leadership."
Right. So true.
And he's like, "Oh, I hate it when you're right." And I was like, I checked in a few days later. "How's it going?" "You were right. I just needed to find different ways to get through to them." Great. So if disrupting is changing the way that the public thinks about maybe the class action lawsuits or different kinds of stuff, or if maybe it's changing the way the staff thinks about the agent staff relationship, or it's changing the way that an agent looks at themselves or a particular seller or buyer, or maybe their own team members or each other, or the technology, or like, that's disrupting people's existing perceptions so that they can look at the world a little differently, and their thinking is changed, and then they change what they do. And I think that unlocks their ability to grow into a better leader of themselves and a better leader of others, including their clients. And that to me is something I try to do as much as I can every single day. And not by being a dick. Like, I'm not just challenging people's stuff
No.
because I like to argue with them. There's plenty of things that I say I agree, but there's a lot of things that I say I see it a little bit differently. And I just go into why I think that is. And I try to use metaphor, storytelling, analogy, all different kinds of things to just get people to shift the way that they're looking at something. I think that's disrupting for good, and being a little bit fearless, as long as you're doing it in a way that is not coming off disrespectful, being a little bit fearless to challenge people and their preconceived notions, their perceptions, the way they see the world, the way they see themselves. There's
Right.
not enough people. When you get a call from somebody and they're complaining about something, you are challenged in that moment. Even your own friends, you're challenged in that moment. Do I say, "Yeah, that sucks. I don't know, man." And you leave because it takes so much more energy to disagree with somebody and to all of a sudden have like an impasse. That How do you know it's the right moment? How do you know that they're going to be receptive to it? That the
Right.
memes about, like, I didn't want your solution. I just wanted you to listen. Okay, well, call somebody else.
Right. Yeah. It's not the job that you're here for.
No,
Yeah.
I'll listen first, but you're not getting off this call without some insight.
Of course.
Even if it's just, "Hey, you know what? You kind of sound like this." Just letting you know what my ear is hearing. I'm not sure what to do about that, but I'm pointing out that it sounds like this. So yeah, I think that that's my own disrupt for good, and also kind of being on the inside of the real estate industry this way allows us to also influence policy. AI, New York State is trying to pass some AI bills and stuff like that are going to shift the burden of responsibility for certain things to real estate brokerages. I won't go further into it than that just because it's not the most exciting topic. But being able to write opinion pieces, because I have experience in local government in Long Island, having been on the planning committee for the town of Oyster Bay for a few years in the 2010s, and also federally, where I lobbied the federal government a little bit in 2019 to try to get a bill passed to study my plan to reinvent the USPS as a modern technology company. Long story for a different day.
I read into
But
that. Amazing.
thank you. So I get to also write opinion pieces on behalf of Serhant that get submitted, to Albany to be read on the floor, and sometimes asked to speak with different people about those things. So I think, yeah, that's my answer. I like to disrupt the way that people see the world for the better if I can, or at least just get them to think differently.
I, I think it's so important to really change the narrative and really shift the way people think, even if they don't want that and it's unsolicited. Because in the end, whether they take that advice or whether they don't, it's only going to benefit them, and you're not going to change who you are, from
Yeah.
the other end of the phone call. to not
And
give that.
if you can make it funny or if you can make it heartfelt, that's better. Like sell it.com, it's all edutainment. It's entertaining education.
Right.
The best teachers in school, they're not just talking at you. They're engaging. It's almost like a performance. You want to see what they're going to say next. I had this teacher in high school, Mr. Stephen Corso. I'll never forget him. He taught Uncommon Valor and he also taught, I think, like American History, Advanced, whatever it was. I would listen to that guy read a freaking diner menu. He was just compelling. And I was engaged and he got me. He grabbed me and I remember so much. I had him as like the security question answer to a bunch of stuff for years before I had to change it because I kept saying that on interviews. But, I think that that's important is if you're going to do that, you have to take it upon yourself to be sneaking your way into somebody's brain like a worm. And as long as your intentions are pure, then yeah, be a little edutaining with the way that you share that information with somebody and hope that you change their thinking so that they think twice before just continuing on the way that they were.
Right, right, absolutely. And both stories today, I mean, with agents, the one in December calling you and the one in Miami. Look at them. They both took your advice. They both ended up coming back to you and they both said how amazing that advice went. So maybe each agent needs a little time with you every.
Oof, don't get that started. We already
There's
have
not enough time in the year for that, but
we have a lockdown on the calendar. I'm trying to do more sell it content and I'm trying to do more event like mastermindy type of stuff. Um, I do get asked to coach a lot, but I'm spending some time coaching the coaches a little bit now, so they can kind of bring some of my approach and methodology to what they do if they see fit. It's not a command;
yeah,
it's just additional enrichment. And the agents that I happen to spend time with, I just try to make it really, really high quality because I can't make it high quantity, but I
no,
try to make sure that it's one of the best calls that somebody ever had.
no, it's incredible. No, you're
You're
really doing
incredible. I
something.
like that you're doing
You're
this.
doing, you're doing something right.
I mean, so are you. So the fact that you've got the experience that you've got, you've already done the commercial internship, you've already got the thing set up for you at the company here. You're ready to graduate Tulane and you're ready to fully commit to the industry. And not to quote Dr. Seuss, but I'm looking forward to seeing all the places you'll go.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for coming on today. I know the audience is going to love this. And I know that I love this conversation. I always love all the conversations that I get to hear during Serhant Live with you on them, and when I get to see you live in person at Sell It or at any other conference. So always a pleasure, and I really appreciate you taking the time today. It means a lot.
Pleasure was mine. Thank you so much for having me, Dylan.